I'm a simple man. I work from 9 to 5. I just need a tender love.
So it's Monday, start of a new week, and I'm starting on a new chunk of work related to the ability to like save links, have ingredients, all that stuff. Now what I'm working on, or what I'm starting to work on is, you have all these ingredients, right? So you can add your own rating system, you can add tags, you can add dates, you can add all these different things, right? And that's great, but now you need to be able to use those in different ways. So I'm starting to work on how those things are essentially exposed within the app. So the first thing I'm working on is the ability to search that stuff. So whether you're on the homepage or within a list or within activity, you have the option to search stuff. And right now you can search by the title of the thing, or you can search by, if you have a sticky note, if you have any text in there, it'll search that stuff. But I want to allow you to search by these different ingredients. So if you have tags or if you have a certain rating, I want you to be able to search for that stuff. And then I'm going to extend that to be able to filter by those things as well. And search and filtering will kind of go hand in hand. So basically what I'm doing is starting to think through the kind of like the behind the scenes of how that's going to work. How do you actually perform those searches? How does it access the data? How do you filter that data, that kind of thing. So there's going to be two parts where I'm working on how to get it working, and then what does the UI look like.
Do you know I'm coming home tonight? Don't do it, do it, do it. Don't do it, do it, do it. Help me, babe.
All right, so I started working on or not really working, started thinking through how searching could work, filtering, that kind of stuff with all these different ingredients. And the more I was thinking about it, the more I was like, you know what? Like, Smart List would actually be a better first implementation of this. And Smart List is something I've had on my list to do for a long time. And if you've used Smart List in Apple Notes or Reminders or other stuff, the idea is it would work in a similar way where you could create lists in Sofa that would automatically be populated based on certain like metadata within an item. And now that you have all these ingredients, that seems like a natural fit. So I'm kind of moving the search and the filtering. I'm still going to do it, but I'm kind of like moving that to the back of the line here. Because really the idea here is these ingredients are, it's great that you have all these ingredients that you can add your own rating system, your own tagging system. You can add a date or a checkbox, whatever. That's all fine. But I think really the real magic of it is going to be how those things are exposed within the app. And there's a lot of different ways I can do that. And there's a lot of ways I plan to do that. Not initially on this first release, but, over time. But I think if I have to pick like one thing to do first, I think Smart Lists are probably the best thing to do.
Coming home tonight. Don't do it, do it, do it. Don't do it, do it, do it. Help me, babe.
All right, so none of this really works yet, but basically what I'm starting to do is just to kind of flesh out what the UI is going to be and how that would actually work. And again, if you've used Smart List in Apple Notes or Reminders, this is going to look very familiar. And that's intentional. The idea is that if you've used Smart List in those areas, using Smart List within Sofa is going to feel very natural. So if I tap up here, there's going to be a new, do a new Smart List instead of just a regular list. And you can add a title. You'll be able to choose which group this is in. And then, again, none of this works yet. I'm just starting to stub this out just to get an idea for the types of things that are going to be in here. And so these would be like the active filters area, and I'll kind of build out all that UI for the different kinds. And then at the bottom, you have these other filters. And then this is where you can, tap a plus button and add one of those filters to this. This is how I prefer the work. I know a lot of designers and developers would mock this up inside of like a design tool like Figma or Sketch. This is all built in SwiftUI, this view here, and I actually find it to be faster and easier to just start putting this stuff together in that, because I can put it on my phone right away and start to just scroll around and get a feel for how things are working and the layout and what needs to change and all that stuff. And none of this is hooked up to like the data yet. There's no data model yet or anything like that. So I find this to be a better approach to get to something real as quickly as possible. So now that I have the basic UI kind of in place and fleshed out, I need to go kind of the next step deeper. So for each different type of a filter here, whether it's a date, whether it's a multi-select, whether it's a text field, all those different things, I'm going to start building out what the UI is going to look like for that. And again, I'm not going to hook up any data to it yet because at this point, things are going to change quite a bit as I'm kind of iterating on it. Again, I treat this phase as the same way I would treat it as if I was in Figma or Sketch and I'm doing mockups. I'm just doing it in code. And again, I like to do this because with SwiftUI, doing this stuff fast is, I think, pretty easy. And I get to put it on my device much faster than if I'm, say, in Figma and I'm like making all these mockups, then I have to turn it into code and then I have to put it on my device. So I just find that design, that like UI mockup phase to be kind of unnecessary, and I can just do it in code. That's not like a humble brag either. I think if you're someone who has never done that before, I say give it a shot, because you'd be surprised how quickly you can iterate on things in code like that. Okay, so I finished the first pass at the initial design for each one of these different filters here. So you can kind of see like what type of filter they are. So this is a text filter, and you'll be able to choose like, does the text contain, does it not contain, or is it something exactly? Toggles for on and off, dates, is it before, is it on, after, between, that kind of stuff. And then for either like a single select or multi-select, this is for like the rating systems people have, or tags, that kind of stuff. So what's nice is a lot of the design elements are kind of shared between the actual inline ingredients that I show on detail views. I'm just kind of reusing them in a slightly different context with making filters. This kind of first pass is done. And again, nothing works yet. So, it's like all this stuff is kind of tied together. So nothing is hooked up to a data source in any way. But this first pass is giving me a good indication, good direction for, does this general UI work? Number one, what needs to be iterated on? And then, the next thing I'm going to start working on is the data model and saving information, pulling information in, all that kind of stuff. Being able to see the actual UI and like the parts I have to connect and hook up. This is very helpful. And again, doing this in code with SwiftUI is much faster, and I actually think a lot more fun than using a design tool.
Help me, babe, 'cause something's gotta give.
So I have the core workflow for creating a smart list, saving it, and then actually viewing one of the filters that you've created. So I have that working from end to end in a very, very basic way. I still have a ton of stuff I have to build out here for all the different filters. Basically right now, the only thing that works is a text filter. So I can, filter by a certain text field. But the reason I did that, I wanted to essentially get from like the beginning to the end very fast, so that I could kind of validate like, okay, does this work? Or will this work at all? Because sometimes you have certain concepts or ideas and you go, yeah, this will work. And then once you start getting through it, it doesn't work. Or it's more complicated or whatever. And so I got kind of like the happiest path and went through it, and everything's working, which is good. Like I said, I still have a ton to build out here. But the fact that it works from, point A all the way to point D or C or whatever letter, I don't know. This is good. So again, it's validating that this idea is going to work. And now I have to dive in and do a bunch of like nitty gritty, tedious work to get all of this working for all the various filters you have to do, because, filtering from text is one thing, but I think that the date filters are going to be maybe a little bit trickier. And maybe also the single select and multi-select. So, but I have to figure that stuff out. So I started work on this release. So this next big release is going to be version 3.5. And I've been working on this release specifically since I started on June 12th of 2023. And as of recording this, it is December 8th, 2023. So I've been working on this for a little bit, and I knew the bigger things that I wanted to make as part of this or include as part of this, right? So you're going to have the custom categories, you're going to have the ingredients that you can add, and the last piece of it has been specifically for the ingredients part, which is how do I expose this within the app, right? So it's one part to be able to create these ingredients and say, create your own rating system or tags or who recommended something to you, whatever that is. That's all great. But being able to expose that within different parts of the app in useful ways, not just like cool or flashy ways, but like in ways that are actually useful. And there's a lot of ways I can do this, but the last fuzzy part of this release has been, what is that kind of like main way to expose this stuff? And I've been trying to just feel that out over the past few months as I've been working on this stuff. And I think that's one of the things that is very clear with this is like, you can create plans at the beginning of something, but sometimes you don't really know what it's going to be until you start diving in and building it. So I think that I feel like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel here. And I think that main initial way of exposing the ingredients and making the categories even a lot more useful is going to be with Smart Lists. And I initially thought it was going to be through like search and filtering, which is similar to Smart Lists, but and I think when I get to that stuff, I'll reuse a lot of the same work under the hood. But I think combining Smart Lists with all of these other features of custom categories, ingredients, and being able to save kind of anything into Sofa, especially from like a share sheet, I think that's going to be a really nice package and a more interesting story for me to tell when I release this thing. So I think I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, this is the last big feature of 3.5. And now I just need to finish building it and then get it out to beta testers. And then from there, it's going to be all about refining, bug fixes, all that stuff, and getting ready to ship.
Help me, babe, 'cause something's gotta give.
So that's it for me this week. I hope you found this interesting. I'd like to do more of this, if it's interesting to watch, where I'm kind of just documenting the thing I'm building as I'm building it and trying to capture my thought process, what I'm thinking through, what I'm kind of working through, all that kind of stuff. And it's not as refined as like other videos I've done where I essentially like kind of script it out in a way, not like a full script, but I write outlines and set it up and have like the nice camera set up and everything. This is definitely a lot more raw. So hopefully this is interesting. I don't know. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Help me, babe, 'cause something